You already know what time it is. Welcome back into the What Offseason Sports Podcast, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, coming on today's episode, we're going back to back here on the guest list. Over 30 years of coaching in the game of football, from college to the NFL and beyond, and we're going to explore it today, guys. Please welcome me in joining Hue Jackson, last seen with the Cleveland Browns in 2018. How are you doing today, Coach?
Hey, thanks for having me. Doing well.
Good, man. Good. Super glad to have you on today. So, over 30 years in the game, man, you've been through obviously so much coaching experience. What was your ultimate goal for you starting out when you began your adventure?
Well, I knew that someday I wanted to be a head coach. When you become involved in coaching, you want to make sure that you rise to the highest levels. And so right. I was a young man coaching and playing, I should say, in high school. I knew that I wanted to continue to play. You go play in major college, you have an opportunity to find out who you really are. And right. Then you realize that maybe you're not talented enough to play, but boy, you want to stay connected to the game some way. So coaching right. became my next avenue.
I love it, man. I love to hear it. And you look back in 1991, I was going through, seeing all the coaching experience that you had. And I was really pleased to see that you actually spent a little bit of time in the WLAF or the NFL Europa League. Can you describe your experience a little bit from, in 91 to first getting your feet wet in the NFL in 2001, some key differences there for you?
Oh, absolutely. We were the World League. We started off in Orlando, putting the teams together, moved to London, a whole different area that a lot right. of us knew about. The food was different. We lived in the living arrangements were way different than what we were used to in the States, but we won the world championship. So honestly, that really got me even more thirsty to want to become a coach in the National Football League is what it did. Now I went back to college in between there, but there's a lot of differences, and really the differences you would see is just the environments that were created for those particular teams that played in the World Football League were much different than the NFL teams, because we didn't have any established organizations, workout, right. all those things. Those things were kind of makeshift and put together. And what you would say is you can tell that the dollar was much different, in the
right.
national what it was in the World League.
I love to hear it, man. And I love how you preface that as well with, getting into the Europa League and then, getting back to college before you eventually did push to the NFL. And from your first college gig to your first NFL gig, that's a 14-year span. Did you ever lose sight of getting to the NFL at that point? You're grinding so hard going through this transition. Did you ever lose sight of getting to the National Football League?
No, I didn't. But what I wanted to have happen is, first, I thought I wanted to be a college head coach.
Right.
And I think in this day and age, it's even hard for minorities to become college head coaches. There's 130 Division I opportunity. There's only 11 or 12. I'm off either one, or I'm right.
Wow.
You're
close though.
Yeah, and then you take it to the National Football League, and it's the same issue. So
right.
To have done it twice, I'm grateful and thankful for the opportunity. But I hope that the young men that come behind me, especially young men of color, get opportunities in the future.
I totally understand that there, Coach. So now we're in 2018. Of course, you're with the Cleveland Browns, like I mentioned to the audience, your last year before you, ventured out of the NFL. Can you walk me through the Hard Knocks experience a little bit? That's such an interesting tape, that they have. It's been going for years. What was it like to be on the set of that show?
Well, I've been on it before, with the Bengals, and so
right.
I knew and that didn't bother me. I thought. My whole thought process behind it is that we were a lost and burst organization, mm-hmm. that we need to put our organization in a situation where everybody was their best every day. And normally when there's a camera, you're probably going to get the best from people.
It never blinks.
Absolutely. And so people want to be at their best because nobody wants to be an embarrassment to anybody. So that, to me, would kind of force us to do things the right way, move forward, and become what we need to become. So I know people, like I said, people talk about, well, why did you do it? That's why I did it. But right. At the same time, I thought it was a good experience for our football team. I didn't think it was a bad.
Right. I love to hear that. And that's perfect. Would you say, I know you just mentioned rather that kind of, kicked your players in the ass a little bit to play better and perform their best on camera. What was your first reaction when you realized, like, I'm going to be on Hard Knocks, like we are, we're going to be here? What's going through your head at that moment?
Nothing. That didn't faze me. I knew the people who were involved, because I around them before in a hard knock situation. I knew they would be out of the way.
Right.
People make more of it than what it is. I think they're pros at what they do. We should be pros at what we do.
Right.
And, again, I think it's exciting to tell the story of how a team gets prepared and gets ready to play and how a team is built.
Right.
And I think they do a great job of showing that. I mean, were there a couple instances of things that were showed that people made big deals about? My conversation with several coaches, absolutely.
Right.
But I would think anybody who's in football would understand that you can't be a head coach and that be the first time you're talking about taking players out of practice. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, that would be a bad head coach, in my opinion. So I didn't understand where that question came from. But at the same time, I recognize that, hey, look, if real football people get a hold of this, they'll know that something's not right there.
Right. Absolutely. Totally love to hear that perspective there, Coach. Today's episode is brought to you by Roan, ladies and gentlemen. Clothing that inspires men, to live healthy, strong, and free. Building the best in-class products is no easy task. Roan works tirelessly to ensure the products you order exceed expectations. Roan is clothing made for men for everything from the gym to the office. And right now, guys, we're teaming up with Roan and Podgo to bring our listeners 25% off a pack of 3 polo shirts by going to podgo.co/Roan. That's PODGO .co/RHONE. Again, for 25% off a pack of 3 polos, guys. Roan, it's clothing that helps you move forever forward. Ladies and gentlemen, as we did mention, having the immense pleasure today to have Hue Jackson on the show. Over 30 years coaching from the NFL to college and everything in between. Getting back into the show here for you, Coach. Now, I know you coach in a plethora of roles, obviously from, coordinators, running backs, wide receivers, head coaching as well. What was your best year you felt like? Did you have a favorite role that you served?
Oh, yeah. I think when I was a head coach of the Raiders, it was one of my favorite roles because I was working for an icon, someone who gave me my first opportunity, someone who believed in me, who gave me an opportunity to really shape the team and where the Raiders were headed. And it's unfortunate that we lost them because I think it would have been an unbelievable feat of what we were trying to accomplish. I think we would have got it done. But and I love the city of Oakland, love the Raider fans. Raider Nation's amazing. So it was a good time.
I feel that. And I love that you actually bring up the Raiders. Now, they were Oakland, obviously, when you're with the franchise. Now they are the Las Vegas Raiders. Do you feel like there would be any, extreme, key differences between being Oakland and then Las Vegas if you were the coach today?
Absolutely. I mean, I just think in Oakland, that's what I know.
Right.
I have coached a team in Vegas, even though I think Vegas is a tremendous opportunity for the organization. What
Absolutely.
I remember being in LA and in Oakland. So I'm going to always be a little bit more partial to Oakland. I think the people really supported the team. There was a whole different feel just because the stadium was different. I mean, They're in a art facility now. That was Oakland Alameda Coliseum, much different environment.
Right.
When coaches come in, I mean, it was just a different feeling. You felt like you were really connected to the fans there. And maybe, because there's been no fans in Las Vegas, I don't know what that's going to be like for the players, but I know my experience in Oakland was fantastic.
Absolutely, man. And the Black Hole, obviously, all the fans down there, the stadium, just so loyal to that team in general. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Now let's talk about the toughest hire/fire moment in your coaching career. Whether it was you being let go, you had to make the decision. You were witnessing it. So many years, obviously, going through this, Coach. What was your toughest hire or fire moment that, like I said, you were just a part of?
Yeah, my toughest fire moment is when I got let go at Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
When you take it for 2 years, I think we can look back and say what it was, but that wasn't a team that was built to win.
Right.
And you take 2 years of that. And here you are in the 3rd year and you're in overtime games. You're playing 4 overtime games and you think, man, this thing is getting turned a little bit.
Right.
And obviously finished the season great because I thought that's what they were going to do. I think if people really go back and look at the teams they played, defensively, all those teams struggle, Right. So they winning, having some great wins at the end, but that's exactly where I thought the team was headed. And they let you go. Like I said, especially after you stand in front of everything for 2 years. I think that's hard. And so that was a tough moment for me.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind me asking, when you did when you did get let go from Cleveland, what was one thing that you were really holding true to yourself? What kept you pushing on through your journey, Coach?
I think what I believe, I mean, you got to have a lot of confidence and faith in yourself.
Always.
Obviously, that knocked me down a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy to get back to where I needed to be. Right. I just had a group of people who truly believed in me, who knew what my struggle was in Cleveland. And they came to my rescue, one of them being Marvin Lewis, who brought me to Cincinnati. And anytime you have somebody you trust who brings you back into the fold of the National Football League, it just puts you back to where you need to be. And so he was able to do that for me.
Right. I know that's a blessing, man. Basically, you were feeling like you were right back at home, like you mentioned, where you were supposed to be. Now, obviously, this was a question I was really happy to bring to the table for you because, like I said, looking at your resume, seeing every organization you've been through, 12 different teams or franchises, that you were involved in, and being a coach, you're so involved with these guys, really, mentoring them and having them believe in you, overall building that relationship. What's it like moving on from a team, and just prepping for the next rung, knowing that, hey, I'm going to get onto these next group of guys and we're going to be the best team that we can be?
I mean, that's part of the business, and it's the hard part because you build relationships with people, coaches, people in the organization, and then you have to let that go. And especially if it's somebody that's going to be an opponent, that part is a whole different dynamic, But at the same time, you try to still savor those relationships. You're going to run into those people, maybe not in the football space, but maybe just in life. And so you treasure those relationships, but you have to move forward and go do your new job. I mean, that's what pros do.
Absolutely. Absolutely right there with you, Coach. And we know it's hard, obviously, to pick things up. Me, as a guy myself, I'm a little bit of a softie. So when it comes to relationships or, friendships sometimes breaking down, I can find myself in that rut. But, just seeing all the changes that you had went through, I had to dig in and wonder, what is the key to being able to move on to that next squad? Now, before we get out of the episode today, super appreciate your time today, Coach. I want you to tell me a little bit about your current venture with Grand Leyenda Organic Tequila, man. I'm a huge tequila lover. Love margaritas. It's a great spirit. Tell me a little bit about your experience with that, after coaching for so long.
It's organic. And so that's the first part. I mean, I think we have all four spirits, the Blanco, the Reposado and Anejo. It's 100% USDA organic tequila. We don't add anything to our tequila. Our Anejo is aged 2.5 years. Our Reposado is aged 1.5 years. And obviously the Blanco silver can come out of the well. And I think it is a great taste. And I just think we're starting to, get on the scene. I think we're scaling the business. I think we got a lot of great things going. And I think we're headed in the right direction.
I gotcha. I totally understand you there. What kind of got you, what drove you to go towards the, the spirit business?
I have a friend who introduced me to the guy at the time who was the president and CEO, and he was the only Black tequila owner at that time in the world. And so, it was the relationship that I built with him first and foremost. And then it was the taste of the spirit. I've never really been a tequila drinker, but I love it. That's all I drink. People don't know that tequila is really the only upper spirit in the spirit game. So that along with the taste profile, that along with it being organic, that along with, all the benefits of this tequila, I got very excited.
Right. And tequila is a fantastic spirit, man. As soon as I saw that on your resume, I was like, I got to dig in and figure out why he did end up venturing off that way after so long of coaching. Now, we know this NFL season, man, was totally crazy. The pandemic, all the canceled games. This was actually the first season that we had football Sunday through Sunday. Each day of the week, eventually through the season, had one game that was played. If you had to step in, I know it was only 2 years ago that you were in the game, but this season was so different. What do you feel like would have been the biggest challenge for you, Hue?
Just managing the players through this pandemic and everything that was different. This wasn't normal football as we know it. I mean, players were wearing masks, they were social distancing from each other. They had to get tested every day. I mean, it was just a lot of protocols. I think there's a lot of coaches that did a fantastic job because that routine that players are used to, when it gets upset like that, it becomes a problem. And I think for the most part, coaches handled it really well.
I think they did too, man. And, you looked at the NBA earlier with the NBA bubble going on, and then you had, the NFL coming about, and everybody was kind of curious because baseball was a little skeptical, and we were really wondering, are we going to be able to see a full NFL season? Now, we've just had the Super Bowl conclude about a week and a half ago, and, the season is finished, but hats off to the coaches, like you said, and really, the COVID protocol being so tough, but really still being able to get every game in. Yes, we had to push some off, and, you had the instance where the Steelers were, I think, playing 3 or 4 games in like 9 or 10 days, but I'm right there with you, Coach. Hats off to the league. I think they did a fantastic job, but I super appreciate your time today, Coach, for hopping on the show. That is going to wrap up today's episode, everybody, of the What Off Season Sports Podcast. We were joined today, like I mentioned, over 30 years of coaching experience from college to the NFL and everywhere in between. We were joined by Mr. Hue Jackson. I will leave his info in the description, ladies and gentlemen. Tag him in the videos as well so you can check him out on social. Get to know him a little better. Coach, again, I appreciate you, my friend, and I hope to do more work with you. This is What Off Season signing out, everybody.